your attention to our CBS Sports college football quarterback power rankings. Now, you will notice a very unfamiliar name at the top of this week's list. Mason Heinchel from Pitt goes from number 43 all the way up to number 1. So maybe we'll get into just why that astronomical leap there. Haynes King, in the meantime, coming in at number 2. Georgia Tech undefeated going into their matchup this week. Fernando Mendoza, Heisman implications. He's been pretty spotless this year. This is our CBS Sports crew. We know our Danny Kannell, our resident quarterback, kind of beats to his own drum, if you will. He's got his own quarterback rankings. He joins us here in studio. Danny, we're going to talk about your top 10 quarterback rankings. But before we get there, I want to talk to you about the most talked about quarterback in all of college football, in Arch Manning. It has just been polarizing, a roller coaster, however you describe it. He has experienced every bit of it. But this past weekend had a really great performance against Mississippi State. 346 yards, 4 total touchdowns. It was a career day for him. You mentioned on the cover 3 that he's turned a new leaf. He's turned over a new page. Why do you say that?
I think a lot of quarterbacks throughout their course of their career, you can look back at one singular game and say, that was the moment I kind of figured it out. I finally found my confidence. I found the belief. I saw something that allowed me to take that next step forward. And it means you're more consistent. It means you start to see some of the fruits of your labor. It means you start seeing some of the upside to your game. I think that's the type of game that game was for Arch Manning. You're coming from behind. It looks like you have no chance to win. You score 24 points in the fourth quarter in overtime. And most importantly, you lead your team to a win because the season was on the brink. That would have been a disastrous loss. So you're in this pressure-packed situation, which you've been in all year long. I think Arch will feel differently about himself. I do think he struggled somewhat with confidence earlier this season. But maybe most importantly, I think his teammates look at him in the huddle now, no matter what the scoreboard is. If they're down 14, if they're down 3 touchdowns, if they're down 4 touchdowns, because of that performance, because he showed them what he was capable of doing in that moment, I think now they look at any game on the schedule and they say, no matter what the score is, we look at our QB and say, that's our guy. And I think there were a lot of doubts before that game that crept in. I don't think there's any doubt anymore. I think it's going to go a really long way for Arch Manning's development as a quarterback.
And how weird is it to say this next sentence that I'm about to say? They'll get a really good opportunity to test Arch Manning against number 9 Vanderbilt coming up this weekend. Vandy has been such a fun team. All right, that's CBS Sports. We talked about CBSSports.com's rankings. Let's get into your quarterback rankings, and we're going to kind of split this in half. So we're going to talk 6 to 10 first. Here is your bottom 10, if you will. I was kind of trying to scan and find Drew Mestemaker on here. We'll talk next week and see where he makes it.
He's been on here before. He's kind of cycled in and off.
603 yards, not bad. But I do want to talk about number 9 on this list, Danny, the quarterback for Washington, and Damon Williams Jr. What do you like about him?
So one of my favorite things when I like to evaluate quarterbacks are after they struggle. Against Michigan, he had his worst game of his career. He had 4 interceptions, and he was off my list, and he was off a lot of people's list. But how do you rebound after a performance like that? Well, he just came back in a big way against Illinois with a resounding win and another strong performance for the quarterback at Washington. He is dynamic, he's electric, and as long as he keeps those turnovers at bay, like you saw against Michigan, he can play as good as anybody in the country. You see the 4 touchdown performance, and most importantly, 0 interceptions. He's a dynamic runner with the football in his hands. He's a player who came in kind of flying under the radar this season for Jed Fish. He had a really strong finish to last year, but I think it is very clear he is one of the top quarterbacks in the country when he is on his game.
Coming off of his second game this season with 4 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. So obviously when you can take care of the football and score points, it's always a good thing coming from your quarterback. Let's go to the top half of that list, your 1 through 5. Ty Simpson, we were just talking before we came up, didn't have the best game. You have him here, though, on this list at number 2. He falls a spot there behind Fernando Mendoza, who we'll talk about in a minute. But Cincinnati, Danny, has really put some teams on notice. That game against Baylor. Talk to me about Brendan Sorsby.
Brendan Sorsby has been incredible for Cincinnati. I don't think anybody expected them to be in this position. In large part, it's because of their quarterback. 27 total touchdowns and just 1 interception. In their loss, he did against Nebraska, which was a 1-possession game where there was a bad play late in that one. He still rushed for 100 yards in that game. He's able to get it done with his legs. He's able to get it done through the air. And most importantly, he has taken care of the football. That is an astounding number 20 touchdowns and 0 interceptions since that Nebraska game, and he's a big reason why Scott Satterfield and this team are in the position they are. They have a huge test because they have not played well away from home. Now they have to place at Rice Eccles at Salt Lake City. That is a tough environment against a really tough team. They're a pretty significant underdog. If they pull off the win, I think it's because of Brendan Sorsby.
You think they can get the win done?
I do. I think they can. There's a lot of question marks about Utah, who's playing quarterback for them.
Yeah.
I think Cincinnati's a really good football team.
Okay, and we're looking forward to that one. There really has been no questions when it comes to Fernando Mendoza, Mr. Personality, Mr. Gets It Done on the football field. He kind of checks all the boxes. And when it comes to the Heisman conversation, too, it's so crazy how things change from year in to year out. In your opinion, is everyone just chasing this guy in college football?
Yes. I think he's the clear-cut front runner for the Heisman Trophy. He's passed a lot of his tests so far. They don't have that many challenges coming up in the regular season. And I think ultimately the Heisman Trophy winner will come from the Big Ten championship game. You see Fernando Mendoza at the top of the list. Julian Sayin has been playing awesome for the Buckeyes. Now, he does have a pretty tough test against Michigan. Don't look now. Michigan probably is going to be 9-2 when they play the Buckeyes there at the final game of that rivalry weekend. But I think that game, when you get a head-to-head matchup the night before the Heisman, voters kind of submit their vote, I think it'll come down to who wins that game and who shines in that game. And I think that there's an outstanding chance. Ty Simpson has several tests down the road. Maybe Marcel Reed from Texas A&M, but ultimately, I think it goes with the guys that have the smoothest path to get to that Big Ten championship game, and then who go head-to-head. I think it'll come down to the winner of that game.
Everyone is really excited about the potential of an undefeated Ohio State and undefeated Indiana team. A lot of good stuff happening in the Big Ten. Danny Kannell joining us to break down his quarterback rankings going into this week. You can get plenty more from DK and the rest of our Cover 3 podcast crew by tapping into the podcast. Scan that QR code on your screen to get locked into the latest college football news right now.